They say a picture says 1,000 words. Well, you don't need that many when you look at this picture, because it tells you all you need to know. Boris is a bought and paid for Rothschild puppet, just like all the rest. No shock there, we all knew it all along, but there's the evidence in case you ever doubted it. Who is more morally culpable, order givers or order followers? The plain truth, the order followers always bear more moral culpability than the order givers, because the order follower is the one who actually performed the action, and in taking such action actually brought the resultant harm into physical manifestation. Order following is the pathway to every form of evil and chaos in our world. Just following orders. It should never be seen as a virtue by anyone who considers themselves a moral human being. Order followers have ultimately been personally responsible for and morally culpable for every form of slavery and every single totalitarian regime that has ever existed upon the face of this earth. Just let that think in. Cops, just following orders. Military, just following, yeah. Security, just following, yeah. Russian military shows off Cyborg owl spy drones. This week, the Moscow Times has reported that Russian military has developed bizarre cyborg drones shaped like snowy owls. The avian drone was unveiled at the Russian Defense Ministry's annual military expo in Moscow this week. Images of the drone shaped by the Moscow Times show a massive menacing owl with a creepy dome-shaped lens where its beak should be. According to the Defence Ministry, the owl drone can be equipped with cameras and other surveillance equipment, as well as laser to help guide artillery and guided air force air-to-sea surface weapons. Most cancers are caused by eating processed food and toxic ingredients, study confirms. A recently published study out of Canada showed that the total amount of cancer rate that can be linked to lifestyle and environment factors is substantial, at almost 41%. According to the researchers, we estimated summary population attributed risk estimates for 24 risk factors: smoking, both passive and active, overweight and obesity, inadequate physical activity, diet, inadequate fruit and vegetable consumption, inadequate fibre intake, excess red and processed meat consumption, salt consumption, inadequate calcium and vitamin D intake, alcohol, hormones, oral contraceptives and hormone therapy, infections, Epstein-Barr virus, hepatitis B, hepatitis C viruses, human papilloma virus, Helicobacter pylori, air pollution, natural and artificial ultraviolet radiation, radon and water disinfection byproducts. By combining population attribute risks estimated for each of the 24 factors that have been previously estimated, the researchers found that 40.8% of the cancer causes can be attributed to the above mentioned 24 factors. Tobacco smoking was responsible for the greatest cancer burden, accounting for an estimated 15.7% of all incident cancer cases, 2,485 cases, followed by physical inactivity and excess body weight, which were responsible for an estimated 7.2% and 4.3% of incident cancer cases respectively. The other factors were responsible for less than 4% of incident cancer cases. The website uses cookies to improve experience. Right. So alcohol seems pretty okay then, doesn't it? Adrenochrome, the most disgusting secret blood-drinking cult drug of the elites. Adrenochrome is an oxidation product of adrenaline, epinephrine, neuroperipherin, and it is the global elite's darkest secret. The effects and classification of this evil drug are said to be controversial because it is debated whether it has any pyroactive or hallucinogenic effects. Also, although some test subjects compare the adrenochrome experience to mild psilocybin and LSD experiences. Proactive effects of adrenochrome may include euphoria, confusion, a change in train of thought, lack of judgment, poor insight, and inability to concentrate. But what is adrenochrome actually? Read on, you will be shocked. And if it doesn't say it in these last 3 lines, then you're going to have to look it up yourself, but I know what it is, and you seriously need to know what them evil bastards get up to. In scientific terms, it is a chemical that is produced in the human body when adrenaline, also known as epinephrine, oxidizes. How is the chemical extracted? A potential victim is terrorized, thus increasing the amount of adrenaline that is given off. When they've terrified the kid enough, that's when they extract it straight from his brain. Smash his head open and extract it. That's what the evil bastards get up to. The Cestui Que Vie Trust Act of 1666, understanding the Cestui Que Vie Trust Act 1666, extensive of life. London in 1666, during the Black Plague, the Great Fire of London, Parliament enacted an act behind closed doors called Cestui Que Vie Act 1666. The act being debated was to subrogate the rights of men and women, meaning all men and women were declared dead, lost at sea, beyond the sea. Back then, operating in Admiralty law, the law of the sea, so lost at sea. The state, London, took custody of everybody and their property into a trust. The state became the trustee, husband holding all titles on to the bent people and property. Until a living man comes back to reclaim those titles, he can also claim damages. When capital letters are used anywhere in a name, this always refers to legal entity, fiction, company or corporation. No exceptions, e.g. John Doe, D-O-E, all capital, or Doe, Jane. 1. Cestui Trust. Pronounced Setke, common term in New Zealand and Australia. Strawman, common term in United States or of America or Canada for the legal fiction, your artificial entity, whatever you want. These are the legal entity fiction created owned by the government who created it. It is like owning a share in the stock market. You may own a share, but it is still a share of the stock. Legally, we are considered to be a fiction, a concept or idea expressed by a name, a symbol. The legal person has no consciousness. It is the juristic person, ens legis, a name, word written on a piece of paper. This traces back to 1666. London is an independent city-state, just like Vatican is an independent city-state, just like Washington, D.C. is an independent city-state. The Crown is an unincorporated association. Why unincorporated? It's private, that's why. The Temple Bar is in London. Every lawyer called to the bar swears allegiance to the Temple Bar. If you want to read the rest, again, links in description. Planned obsolescence. How the products you buy are designed to break. How many times have you bought an electric device only to find out that it has stopped functioning properly just a short time after your purchase? Well, after the guarantee. You spent so much money on it and suddenly you're sad to know that it's not working well anymore. The result, wasted expenses, labour, energy and finite resources. Not to mention the toxic waste that ends up in the landfills poisoning the planet. But why is that so? Why is that most products' lifespan is so short, considering the advanced modern technological means of production? And that's because they deliberately build it into the engineering when they're building it to make sure it only has a certain life, so it eventually breaks and you've got to get a new one. Planned obsolescence. Keeping you as a cash cow for as long as they can. This is about DVLA being questioned about whether they should be or are part of the Data Protection Act. DVLA shared details of 23 million vehicles keepers in 2018. Fears raised over who is requesting data and how they're using it. The Driver and Vehicle Licence Agency, DVLA, could face an inquiry by the information watchdog after it emerged that it released personal details of 23 million motorists last year. The Information Commissioner's Office, ICO, has confirmed that it is looking into issues around the sharing of driver data to third parties after motoring groups questioned the scale of information sharing and the legitimacy of some of the requests. According to the Times, half of the requests were made by local councils, but the DVLA also made almost 20 million in 2018 from sharing vehicle keeper details with other groups such as private parking firms, bailiffs and private investigators. The data represents the record of almost 2/3 of vehicles owners in the country, and the level of sharing has led to questions about whether it abides by the general data protection regulations introduced last year. And of course it doesn't. Now, on average, they charge something like £3 to get your details. So, if everyone that they've ever sold their details to, whether you've ever had a car or if you've got a car, whether they sold your details or not, if everybody sued them for just £100 each, they'd be bankrupt. They would be bankrupt. And we'd get our money back. And we'd end the corruption. How statins cause heart problems, use the natural solutions instead. In the past, some MDs have proposed that statin drugs should be put into our water supplies and handed out as to fast food customers, as if fluoridated water poisoning as a necessary mass medicine that turns out to be toxic isn't enough. One of the 4 American aged 55 or over are on a statin drug, most of whom are without cardiovascular or heart problems. Many are the prescribed statins slowly for high cholesterol, even as the FDA finally got around to facing some, not all, of the side effects of statin labels and ads. Maybe Pfizer wasn't content with their sales revenue of 140 billion while its patent on Lipitor was in effect. Now other pharmaceutical companies continue to rake in its profits with this statin drug version, while MDs and cardiologists push them on ignorant middle-aged folks that think their doctor know best. Even many young people are now being scammed into taking a statin prescription due to an outdated attitude towards LDL and HDL levels. Dr. Karen Dean, MD, ND, an author of Death by Modern Medicine, was and passionate promoter of magnesium supplementation, posted an abstract from the Japanese study that scientifically indicates that statin drugs are perpetrators of bad heart health rather than the proclaimed solutions to heart health. So, it's a depopulation drug, just like all the rest. Britain sees major growth as exports boom, revealing Remainer lies again. The United Kingdom is set to boom from Brexit. United Kingdom exports to the rest of the world have outstripped that of the European Union. The UK is booming and the Remainer lies are now falling apart as they cry their eyes out. Marcus Gibson from Gibson Index Limited has said clearly and loudly that Brexit Britain is booming. According to figures published by the UK Office of National Statistics in November, in the second calendar year following the EU referendum, exports to non-EU countries were 342 billion, while exports to EU countries were 274 billion. In the same period, the growth in export continued to outstrip the growth in imports, almost halving the UK's trade deficit from 23.4 to 15.8. See, sooner we get out of that dictatorship, the better. Italy arrests 18 for allegedly brainwashing and selling children. The accused include psychotherapists working for Social Work Association in Moncaleri, near Turin, and the mayor of Bibao. Italian police have arrested 18 people, including mayor, doctor and social workers, for alleged brainwashing vulnerable children into thinking their parents had abused them so they could then be sold to foster parents. Police in the north city of Reggio Emilia made the arrest after an investigation started in 2018 revealed an alleged network of carers who used methods including electroshock to make the children believe they had been sexually abused. The network then allegedly gave the children to foster families in exchange for cash, while keeping gifts and letters sent to the children by their real parents hidden in a warehouse that was discovered by police. The alleged abuse was reported by Italian media and confined to AFP by police in Bibbiano, near Reggio Emilia, on Thursday. These accusations, if confirmed, are frightening and shocking, Italian Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte said at the G20 meeting in Japan. The accused include psychotherapists working for a social work association in Moncleri, near Turin, and the mayor of Bilbao. To brainwash the children, those arrested allegedly forged childlike drawings with sexual connotations and used electroshock therapy as a little memory machine to create fake abuse memories, while the therapists are accused of dressing up as wicked children's story characters. Flint water prosecutors drop criminal charges with plans to keep investigation. Chicago prosecutors stunned the city of Flint, Michigan on Thursday by dropping all pending charges against officials accused of ruining the country's drinking water and ignoring signs of a crisis, causing doubt on what some residents have seen as a small but tangible step toward justice. 15 state and local officials, including emergency managers who ran the city and a member of the governor's cabinet, had been accused by state prosecutors of crime as serious as involuntary manslaughter. 7 have already taken plea deals. 8 more are on the cards. You see, money talks, and they don't want them prosecuted. The Yakhchāl was an ancient Persian refrigerator that stored food and even ice long before electricity was invented. In case someone ever tries to argue that ancient human civilizations were less advanced where compared to modern day humanity, we've gathered some examples in favour of the ancients. They were many a time ingenious in the type of technology they came up with and employed in their everyday life. Take the Incas, for example, who did not have a developed alphabetic system and for writing, but had the quipu, a counting device of knots and strings that enabled them to take track of population records and livestock, and even recapture essential episodes of their folklore. When it comes to engineering, architecture wonders are omnipresent on almost every continent, whether that be the pyramids of Egypt, Angkor Wat, or of the Khmer Empire, or even entire underground cities such as Derinkuyu in Turkey's Cappadocia region. One great example of smart and sustainable engineering brings up to the Middle East, a realm noted for being one of the cradles of civilization and developing human cultures. There, around 4th century BC, the ancient Persians came up with what is known as a Yakhchāl. The Yakhchāl did not serve as a building, a burial ground, or a place to accumulate people, but instead fulfilled another important function amid the scoring summers. With excessive heat and amid arid climate, the region had occupants, the ancient Persians, who needed some way to cool off and store food during the summer months, and that's when Yakhchāls were found of great help. The word stands for ice pit. The edifices provide both space and condition to store not only ice but also many types of food and would otherwise quickly spoil at hot temperatures. If a bailout was good enough for the bankers, why isn't it good enough for us, steel workers ask? I agree. Leaders in the labour movement are urging government to nationalise British Steel, as steel workers ask, if a bailout is good enough for bankers, why isn't it good enough for us? Labour's Shadow Business Secretary Rebecca Long-Bailey told the Tories to intervene after the company's compulsory liquidation was announced this morning. She added the Tories' legacy will once again be in this industrial decline whilst they endlessly squabble over the European Union. The government must act quickly to save this strategically. How about we just get rid of government, then everything would be better. Nearly 40 kilograms of cocaine found in Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro's G20 plane entourage. He is the controversial Brazilian president who has promised zero tolerance in the country's pervasive drug trade. But it seems Jair Bolsonaro will need to start his own entourage. A member of his official military detail has been arrested en route to this week's G20 in Japan after being found with some 39 kilograms of cocaine. The Brazilian Air Force officer was detained during a stopover in Seville, Spain. The serviceman was found to have cocaine in his hand baggage that weighed a total of 39 kilograms. A spokesperson for Guardia Civil said he was arrested on suspicion of drug trafficking and is currently in custody at a Seville headquarters waiting to appear before a judge. He was later named as 38-year-old Sergeant Silvia Rodrigues by the Brazilian TV network Record TV. The plane, an advanced flight ahead of Mr. Bolsonaro's own journey, was carrying a military delegation tasked with protecting the president during the summit in Tokyo. And they just thought they'd take 39 kilograms of cocaine along with them just in case they got bored. Yeah. EU locked in internal squabble over who gets unelected president. Brussels. European Union leaders launched a new round of talks Sunday in desperate hopes of producing a breakthrough in a diplomatic fight over who should fill the top leadership post at the 28-nation bloc. Also, forgetting to add the unelected post. Leaders of members of countries that have twice failed to make a key appointments, which include picking a replacement for Jean-Claude Juncker as president of the EU's powerful executive arm, the European Commission, and for Donald Tusk as head of the agenda-setting European Council. Some discussed the roster of upcoming vacancies, which by November will include the EU's top diplomat, the President of the European Parliament, and the Chief of the European Central Bank, on the sidelines of the Group of G20 summit in Japan that concluded Saturday. Girl 9, who endured up to 300 seizures every day and had one of the worst cases of epilepsy doctors have ever seen, is nearly seizure-free thanks to cannabis oil. Tegan Appleby was diagnosed with severe Lennox-Gastaut syndrome epilepsy, but in a medically induced coma after she had 5 seizures over 8 days. Tegan was not had a seizure in the day, only at night since taking the oil. A 9-year-old girl who used to have up to 300 seizures a day has been nearly seizure-free since she started taking cannabis oil. Tegan Appleby from Aylsham, Kent, was born with the rare chromosome disorder isocentric chromosome 15 syndrome, which led to her being diagnosed with severe Lennox-Gastaut syndrome epilepsy when she was just 4 years old. The youngster's condition became so bad that she was unable to eat and even had to be put in a medically induced coma after she had 5 seizures over 8 days last summer. After having one of the worst cases of epilepsy her doctors have ever seen, Tegan has only had seizures while asleep and none while awake since she started taking the cannabis oil in July. City warns UK to stay out of Hong Kong. Beijing hits out at British interference after democracy activists seize Parliament building on anniversary of former colonies handover. Riot police fire tear gas as they retake ransacked assembly following dramatic escalation in protest against Chinese extradition bill. Threat to keep Brexit on track. Yeah, right. Drip feed vets health warning. Ibiza comes to the big screen. Sir Cliff calls for legal anonymity. Yes, because he's got caught being a paedophile, didn't he? Metro. Hong Kong on the brink. Telegraph. Johnson plans to cut cabinet by half. Speak up to save lives. NHS chief tells staff White Harbour barbecue food needs a green option. BBC licence fee payers back Lineker's salary. No, they don't. Manufacturing crisis has firm fear turmoil. The Times. It's scrap your summer holidays. Macho Hunt tells civil servants. Hong Kong protests break into Parliament. Wimbledon gives title to a missed boost for equality. The Guardian. Met flaps up 700 welfare and abuse cases a day. Hong Kong protesters break into Parliament. Yes, about it. Daily Fail. They're trying to make out that Kate's anywhere near as liked as Diana was. Never going to happen. She's not. She's just a dirty, filthy one of them. Parasitical bitch. Frozen body horror at 2 million house after 9-hour flight to Heathrow. Stowaway falls from jet into garden of sunbather. She's 15. Love Venus beaten by a teenager. The Scum. Migrants 3,500 foot plunge. Falling jet stowaway lands 3 foot from sunbather. Taylor Mifford. Express. PM rivals slug it out over no deal Brexit. Help inspire young lives in memory of my mother. Mirror. Megan. I refuse to let my family ruin Archie's life. You can find that difficult. Waste of paper. Jeremy Kyle, jail threat, 4-star to answer MP's questions. Killer airfare for millions. Well, I tell you what, if he's got to answer why one person committed suicide, then every member of Parliament should answer why 120,000 have committed suicide because of the present government, but it would be no difference if the other lot were in any of the other lots. FT. Parliament break-in plunges Hong Kong deeper into turmoil. Downtown is in factory. Output paints gloomiest picture in UK in 6 years. It's up, it's down, it's up, it's down. Sure. Right, and finally, I am trans-financial, which means I am a rich person born in a poor person's body. Help stop the hate by sending me money to resolve my financial identity disorder. The pain is real, folks. Send it. Send all you can.